Perfect. Everybody, thank you very much for joining. My name is Craig Brand from Folium Biosciences. I hope everybody understands my Greek. Is everybody getting it? I've been practicing all week for this, so I hope Greek it is. Anyway, Folium Biosciences, who we are. We are the largest cannabinoid extraction company in North America, probably the world. We've been in business now for just going on about 6 years. We're the largest vertically integrated producer, manufacturer, and distributor of hemp-derived phytocannabinoids as well. What that means is we do everything from seed to sale. So this year we farmed almost 1,000 acres of hemp. We've purchased the remainder. We extract it and we sell off both extracted product as well as finished good manufactured products. We own and operate, as stated, the largest photocannabinoid extraction purification facility as well. So what does that mean? That means it's not just CBD. I know that at the show everybody's been talking about CBD, CBD, CBD. We have 137 molecules in hemp cannabis. Of those 137 molecules, CBD happens to be only one. So we have IP, intellectual property, that allows us to identify other cannabinoids and extract them as well. And we're working on, at this moment, new markets for the new cannabinoids that we're going to be bringing out there. We are also the only company in the world that can mass produce on a commercial level THC-free cannabinoid products. So so we do two things. We do either a THC-free manufactured products, or we do a raw crude extraction that we then go ahead and purify and polish, and that has up to 0.3% THC for those markets that allow and identify those types of products. Otherwise, our intellectual property allows us to remove all traces of THC and be able to sell off as a 0.0% THC-free finished product. We've grown to become the global leader in the non-psychoactive cannabinoids, and we employ in excess of 200 people. In 2019, we expect to grow over 500. What does 0.0 THC mean? It means we've got a chromatography purification process that's been able to selectively remove the only psychoactive component, which is the delta-9 THC, from the photocannabinoid-rich hemp oil. The absence of this THC product is confirmed through high-performance liquid chromatography test and by the state of Colorado. Folium has been certified by the CDPHE, which is the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, as a producer of 0.0% THC products, and has been issued a free sale certification for that. Business overview. So Folium Biosciences, as I stated, we are fully vertically integrated. We start off at genetics. Light's bright. We start off with genetics. We have our own genetic research and development projects. We obviously are in this business to create the highest levels or highest values of CBD-rich hemp on the marketplace, and that is what we take and put into the ground and grow for ourselves. We then cultivate that, we extract it, we refine it, and then we turn that into the products that we sell onto the market. Examples of our products: bulk ingredients, PCR hemp oil, water-soluble powder, water-soluble liquid, hydro-PCR, energy recovery drinks, white label products, which we put out and manufacture for others, PCR soft gels, tinctures, advanced nano tinctures, bombs, vape and e-liquids, sports creams, cosmetics. So we do everything from eye serums to body lotions to face creams, cellulose. And then for animal health, we have an entire veterinarian department as well, with veterinarians that certify our products, do research and development on them for hemp, pellets, canine soft chews, tinctures. We also have, which is not on those slides, we also produce for large farm animals as well, horses, cows. Compliance and certifications. So as stated, we are 0.0% THC through our intellectual property and our processing. We are the only company, in the entire world that has been certified by the CDPHE in that category. We're organic compliant, we're halal certification, we're the CDPHE licensed to operate, manufactured food. There should also be cosmetics in there as well. Kosher certified, GMP compliant. On our CDPHE GMP testing score, we received a 100% marker.
So thank you again for everybody for being here. So really this is getting to the reason that we're here in Greece today. Let's talk a little bit about where we are in the market in the United States and North America, and what we think the opportunity is here in Europe and specifically in Greece. So to give you some context, in the United States, we have over 300,000 square feet of manufacturing space. So that means that this is a space that's dedicated just to extraction, purification, and manufacturing. We are about to launch a pharmaceutical division. This pharmaceutical division will obviously be geared towards supporting pharmaceutical grade products. And then lastly, we're about to break ground on a new facility in Canada. So from our perspective, our facility that exists in the United States is to support domestic opportunities in the United States. Our Canadian facility will support South America and Canadian opportunities, which leads us to why we're here today. So we think that the opportunity for Greece is this. Greece, probably along with Spain, is uniquely positioned from the perspective of the climate and how conducive it is towards growing these plants. So when we're looking at scaling the business in Greece, we're not really looking at the domestic market as the opportunity. We see Greece as a gate into the whole of the EU, Africa, and the Middle East. And that's the opportunity that we want the Greek people and the Greek government to recognize exists, and one that we want them to embrace, and one that we want to help facilitate. So our plan would be to bring in genetics, seeds that we could provide to farmers here in Greece, have them grow maybe as much as 10 to 20,000 acres within the next 2 years. We would put in an extraction plant here in Greece to support that biomass extraction. We would put in a factory for manufacturing of finished goods and purification. And then we would put in distribution centers. But again, the goal is not so much to develop the domestic market, which will happen organically, but really to create a springboard for the Greek economy with this industry to lead the way for EU, Africa, again, and the Middle East. So our belief is that in the next 10 years, many of the new drug developments at the pharmaceutical level will be based on these molecules. Like, as Craig mentioned earlier, CBD is the first of those molecules to be developed, but we're already working on producing CBG and CBN, each of which has different applications in addressing different indications. So the opportunity for Greece is to not only provide for OTC products, but also for the pharmaceutical markets as well. And so Greece can be the epicenter in the markets that we're talking about as far as supplying into all those opportunities, which, from our perspective, could deliver a huge economic boost to the country. We find in the United States that a lot of our partner companies bring in facilities close to where we are to support the businesses that they have. So other manufacturers that sell our products will put their factories around where our extraction facilities are, just to provide local, close support to help them be more effective in their businesses. So it's not just what we bring into the marketplace, but the ancillary businesses that also will develop around us that can add a lot of economic value. So that's kind of who we are and what we think the opportunity is that exists in Greece. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. Yes, ma'am.
How close are we to getting actually high CBD seeds certified for cultivation in Europe? As far as I know, the ones that we could have now as farmers, they're not as good as the ones in the United States.
That's obviously the biggest impediment to being competitive in Europe versus the United States. With the passage of the Farm Bill recently, that has even more is more pronounced now than it was in the past. I can't speak to the EU. All I can speak to is the Greek government and the opportunities that they want to provide to their people. We've met with the Minister of Agriculture, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, and they are incredibly supportive of the efforts that we're talking about and putting Greece in a leadership position in the EU to develop this market. So we're continuing to have those conversations, but from every indication that we've had, they want to embrace this, and they want to provide Greece with every opportunity to get out in front of the market. So I think that there's, at least here in Greece, a very high likelihood that in the very near future, these cultivars and genetics will be approved for growing. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Are you going to be only in the zero THC market, or are you planning also to get into
I'm sorry, are we planning to
get into the medical cannabis with THC, I mean?
So that's a great question. Thank you for asking. We do not cultivate THC as a core product. The THC that's found in our products is a byproduct of what's found naturally in hemp. So the THC levels typically will be around the 0.3% level. That helps to some degree with delivering on what's called the entourage effect and the efficacy of the product. But globally, what we've found is that, for example, if we look at the United States, where we have large retail customers like Walmart, while it's legal to have up to 0.3% THC in hemp-derived products, a lot of our large customers are not interested in that. They want a zero THC product because that removes liability for them. It makes things much easier from a security standpoint, for minors purchasing products or somebody getting into some kind of negative test or any liability associated with those kinds of things. So we think that, and very similarly here in the EU, there will be large companies that while some level of THC is legal, they won't want it. We know definitively that markets in the Middle East, in Asia, like Malaysia, for example, or China or Japan, have a zero threshold for THC, but are very interested in CBD or non-psychoactive cannabinoidal products. So we think that establishing that as a benchmark will again help provide Greece with opportunities globally from a logistical standpoint that will give us an advantage in the marketplace. So our ability to bring technology to the table that's patented, that helps us satisfy those expectations, will be really, really good. Other questions? Don't be shy. I mean, we got another 45 minutes. So. Yes, sir.
Apart from Greece and Spain, are you interested in any other markets within the European community?
I think that the basic premise of markets that we're looking at is somewhat dictated by climate and what's conducive to growing most effectively. And certainly Greece and Spain are primarily ideally suited for that. Again, I think that from every indication that we've gotten, the government of Greece is very open to exploring these opportunities. So that's primarily where our focus is right now. And I think that from our perspective, we think that Greece deserves the opportunity to lead the way in what we think is going to be a large global opportunity in the future. And I think it could be a really beneficial to the local economy. And we think that the population base here is hungry for those kinds of opportunities. And for us to bring that to the local community is a win-win situation. So why not go into a community that's going to appreciate the opportunity versus one that's going to take it for granted? So that's kind of our perspective on that. Any other questions? Yes?
In working with local farmers here in Greece, hoping to use your seeds to supply your company, would there be a minimum land requirement? Like how small of a small farmer should you be to get involved?
It doesn't have to be that large. Our batch sizes typically are in the 5,000 pound range, right? And so it doesn't take a lot of acreage to produce enough to meet a minimum batch size. I think the benefit that we bring to farmers is not just the fact that we can provide them with genetics, but we provide them with a clear pathway to monetization. Growing is one aspect of monetization. You can grow it, but if you don't have a way to extract the molecules, and then if you don't have a way to turn those molecules into a saleable product, and if you haven't developed a market for that saleable product, those are all critical steps in monetization. So we don't feel that there's any concern with working with small farmers. We do that all the time. We enjoy working with small farmers. Typically, they're very focused on delivering a high-quality crop. But we think that when we come to them and essentially provide them with a guarantee of income on that crop, it's a very compelling opportunity for them. Other questions? Do you have any more questions? Yes, sir. I think there is, to some extent. I think, though, it's important that people understand that growing organically doesn't necessarily provide for an organic finished product. Every step in the process of producing an end product needs to be certified as organic, from the initial biomass to other ingredients that are used in the process as well. So, our biggest issue, quite frankly, has been our inability to keep up with global demand. And we think that we're still scratching the surface of that demand as new markets are growing daily. Mexico just legalized. South America is opening up. And I think this year, we're growing our capacity by 10x, and we're still sold out. So I think that, again, that is still an early reflection of the market demand globally. If you look at what this molecule does, it's very, timing is almost perfect, right? It's a confluence of events. I think that in the States, and I think even here, to some extent, people are exhausted with some of the side effects that come with opiate use, for example. Right? And so looking for healthy alternatives that can provide them with relief without the side effects is something that's very desirable. So, and that's a big that reflects on why we see such a strong demand is not only opiates, but whether it's PTSD or some form of anxiety or sleep. The applications of these molecules across so many indications, like epilepsy or neurological disorders, are so great that the demand in even one of those channels would be huge. To have a product that has efficacy across all of them, as you can imagine, provides for a huge opportunity. Yes, sir. I don't think it's a question of, I think we want to work, there are a few basic criteria. Water and drip irrigation is a key criteria. We add nutrients to our outdoor grows to increase yields. And so controlling delivery of those nutrients to the roots. But beyond that, as far as a farmer having drip irrigation, we've learned over the last 5 years how to cultivate, harvest, dry all of these crops in the most effective way possible. So we'll bring that technology and that knowledge to the Greek farmers to help facilitate that for them. But there's a lot of infrastructure that exists in Greece today from the history of tobacco farming that's very transferable to what we're doing. So, please. Yeah.
I guess in Colorado, where you are, your farmers are relatively concentrated in terms of where they're located. Would you be looking to work with farmers in one particular area of the country, or
So I think the best way to answer that is to tell you that we have farmers in Oregon, Kentucky, Colorado, North Carolina, and so we have a fleet of 24 18-wheel trucks, I think we have right now. They're refrigerated, that transport our material across the country. So we have centralized extraction and purification because that's the cost-effective way to do that. But farming is, geography, distance are not really difficult barriers to overcome. I think anywhere in Greece you could reach within 24 hours. So we don't view that as an issue. Yes, sir. I think that they have infrastructure that other areas might not have. No, I don't think that's I think that we're talking about a plant that is very robust. I think that you might see some variances in yields from a crop perspective, but there's so many factors that go into this plant is sensitive to stress, like a lot of plants are. Right? And so there are a lot of environmental factors that go into also what the yield is from any specific crop. But when you look at these things from a broad scale, we don't think that's a factor that has any real impact on where we might go from one area versus another. Again, when you're talking about volume, 10,000 acres this year, we'll do across the U.S. we'll do 30 to 40,000 acres next year. It all has a tendency to average out and balance out. Yes. What is your name? Sylvia? My favorite person in the room right now. You guys need to work on this, Sylvia.
You mentioned before adding nutrients through drip irrigation. Is that a definite prerequisite? Or does it mean that if you don't have an organic line of products,
Well, your nutrient can be organically certified, and so that doesn't exclude that. But I think and I'm not sure if you're asking this, but you're asking if drip irrigation is a requirement. It's not, but obviously what we're trying to do is maximize yield from every acre, and that's to the benefit of the farmer. Right? The larger the crop, the more he's compensated. And so, again, we'll bring to the table whatever resources that we've developed and whatever tools we've developed to help that. We want that, and the farmer wants that, so it's a win-win situation. But when you're looking at irrigation from drip versus pivot, drip irrigation is definitely more desirable because it provides for regulated delivery of water to the root system. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, we would deploy a facility in Greece that could process up to 15 to 20,000 kilos of active per month. So from a biomass input, that would translate into, I think we need to be farming probably 20,000 acres. Yes, sir.
With the byproducts of the plant, you can make as well insulation, and it's what the process you make. Can you give
we do monetize everything, but we don't monetize it in the way you're thinking. There's a diminishing returns in extraction. So we do get to a point where even though the stalk and the stem have some cannabinoidal value, it's not valuable enough to extract. But what we do is we mill that material, we pelletize it. So now we have typically a product that's about 0.3% CBD, which turns out is an ideal product for feed for cattle. So we actually sell feed for cattle. So we monetize everything, but in a different way. And that feed for cattle is actually much more valuable than insulation or some of these other more industrial applications of hemp. A lot of large animals are very susceptible to inflammation, like horses and cows. And so CBD from these pellets is really, really effective in addressing those kinds of things. I should have asked, again, Craig, as a way of introduction, is our general counsel. If anybody has any specific legal questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer those as well. Any other questions? Sylvia!
Sorry, you mentioned
No, sorry.
that you have refrigerated trucks.
That's correct.
Around. Does that mean that as a farmer I wouldn't need to create a specific drying facility at my location?
No, drying is separate from transportation. Right? So the refrigerated trucks are after the product's been dried. So obviously what we're trying to do is we're trying to maintain the integrity of the cannabinoids to the fullest extent that we can to minimize degradation in the plant material. So you don't want any mold developing in transportation. And then even though the material is dried, typically the target water weight is 7 to 8%. So there's still some moisture level left in the biomass. And so to protect from mold, we typically transport in refrigerated trucks. But we provide all of our farmers with the criteria by which we take the material from them. So there's a GMP process where we provide to them, the metrics that we want the product to be in by the time we pick it up from them. Any other questions for either myself or Craig? Yes, sir. Oh, I've got two now. This is awesome. I get to choose one. Eeny, meeny, miny. Go ahead. Yeah, it's a good question. The way I would answer that is that we actually, one of the reasons, so if I can answer your question just a slightly different way. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is that the output of our product is consistent. And the way that we ensure consistency is that the biomass, as I mentioned, we grow in multiple states. And biomass coming in from those different states will vary to some extent because of the environmental conditions that the plants have been subject to. And so what we've done is through our extraction and purification process is standardize what happens to the biomass. So the removal of contaminants is one of the steps that we take in the biomass to ensure the quality of product that we're looking for in the end result. So we address that at a different stage. But we're very comfortable that our processes ensure that the product that's delivered meets our standards. And again, that's a mechanism that we can utilize to help farmers. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my question was, so indeed you are planning to come here. Is that like a definite thing, or you are waiting for the government to change some things in the legislation, and you're waiting some more positive action before you decide that you are going to come?
So another good question. The capital investment for us to put infrastructure in Greece is somewhere around $80 to $100 million. And so it's a significant dollar amount. So we always want to ensure that we have the support of the local government, that they want us to be here, and we have long-term protection, which is just common sense. But from every conversation that we've had to this point, Greece is our number one choice. It's where we want to be. And the government has indicated to us that they want us to be here. And so we're very hopeful that we could be operational in Greece by 2020.
Are you having doubts because of the fact that that the products coming from industrial cannabis are not, this area is not very clear in the legislation of how legal or not legal they are?
We're not, because we've had enough dialogue with the government that they have assured us that that's something they're aware of, and that they will intend to address before we make a final decision. So, of course. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The extraction technology, you're going to be focusing more in CO2 or?
Yeah, 100% CO2 extraction. So we have all of our new facilities are CO2 extraction facilities. We are actually in the final stages of acquiring a Dutch company that has had a long track record of extraction expertise and patents in that area. They're the ones that have been supplying our most recent equipment to us. So, yep, CO2. Large scale CO2. Any other questions? I think that this is a great example of quality over quantity. You have been an excellent audience. We appreciate your time. Sylvia, you were awesome. We're around for the next few days. We're enjoying ourselves very much. The Greek hospitality is exactly what we were led to believe it would be. Although I must say that by 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm very tired and sleepy, and I understand that your evening is just starting around that time. So you'll have to excuse me for that. But we will be here for the next several days. If you have any questions, please stop by our booth. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.